Hello, welcome to Connotation Points Video Snark. I read bad books so that you don't have to. I'm continuing my review of Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 49. Kenji shows up to inform them that Warner isn't dead. Adam isn't exactly thrilled to see him. Wow, what a greeting, Kent. Be careful not to pull a muscle thanking me for saving your... I'm sorry, what exactly did Kenji do again? He brought Warner and his soldiers down to Adam's safe house for James, and probably ruined the lives of a lot of other people who lived there. He did not rescue Adam from the butcher warehouse. He literally just drove them to a place. And yeah, the place does seem to be a good place, but they literally had no proof that he wasn't actually working for Warner, and had no proof of how he just happened to show up on Adam's doorstep. Although after Juliet's calm attitude over what Kenji did to them, it's honestly kind of refreshing to see somebody reacting appropriately towards Kenji right now. Although Kenji says that Adam and James are going to be staying with him, and chop chop, it's late and I want for the two of you to turn in so that I can sleep too. Forget about Adam having been shot and, according to Castle's own words, on the brink of death. Apparently those twins aren't just healers, but freaking miracle workers if they can fix Adam to the point where he no longer needs to be medically observed in, what did they say it was, 12 hours? I'm willing to suspend disbelief over things like they can magically heal people, but I refuse to accept that they're that good at healing. After Kenji explains that it's easy to get mixed up when you're underground, they return back to the main topic, Warner. Kenji says that he saw Warner outside on the cameras just now. That's why we got lucky last night. Apparently the soldiers got called back to base because they thought Warner was dead. There was a shift in power for a minute. No one knew what to do, what orders to follow, but then it turned out he wasn't dead. It's a pretty poor military if the possible death of exactly one person sends everybody into an out-of-control frenzy. I know that you're supposed to represent the bad guys here, but come on. At least try to make them intimidating rather than a collection of disorderly idiots in camouflage with guns. Kenji then tells him that this place is safe. Aside from the cameras, he briefly touches upon security measures without explaining them, but goes on to say that they've been preparing for a war. Adam then asks Kenji if he has a power, and then Kenji literally disappears. He's still solid, but he can camouflage himself and become essentially invisible. It's how he found out where Adam lived. He literally just followed him home. When Castle heard that Warner was on the lookout for Juliet, he figured that it would be better to have an inside man to get the scoop on what was going on in there. After Warner had Juliet and Adam became involved with that project, Castle told Kenji to keep an eye on Adam too, just in case. Adam then sends Kenji off on a fool's errand. He uses the time he's alone with Juliet to start making out with her, but Kenji interrupts him and says that the wall is made out of glass and that everybody walking by can see them. Chapter 50. The next morning, Winston comes to get Juliet before most everybody else is awake for the day. He says that he has some clothes for her and starts to take her somewhere. As they're going, he says that Juliet needs to learn how to control her powers. Everybody else is learning too. He goes on to say that there's only 56 people with powers there and everybody else are just the family and close friends of those with powers. Juliet tries to ask Winston what he can do, but then he gets angry when he says that he wishes that he has a more useful power. Juliet says that it's not some competition of who can hurt others the most, but anyway, Winston has stretchy powers like Elastigirl. They go to Kenji's room where Adam is waiting. No mention of where James is, but I kinda don't care right now. For some reason, they decide that the absolute best place to keep Juliet's new clothes would be in Kenji's room. Adam wants Winston and Kenji to get out so that he can talk to Juliet alone for 2 seconds, but Winston insists that he has to follow some sort of protocol. Adam eventually shoves him out, but Winston asks that at least Juliet can try on the outfit. When they're alone, Adam thanks Juliet for having saved his life. Juliet feels like a simple "you're welcome" wouldn't do the situation justice, and instead expresses how thankful she is that he's okay now. Juliet then puts on the outfit at Adam's urging. It's literally a superhero costume, and I cannot. The icing on this bizarre cake is that Adam thinks that it makes Juliet look sexy. Pretty sure that this is just the author's fetish at this point. Ick. Epilogue. Now, normally epilogues will tease something else that's happening elsewhere to lead into the next book. Maybe a hint of what's going on with Warner, or jump over to Castle, or something. Instead, we might as well just call these 2 pages Chapter 51. Winston and Kenji come back in. Winston says that in order to stop Juliet from overheating in the summer in long sleeves, they designed this outfit to be worn in any weather. which is nifty, I guess, if it didn't make her seem like the newest member of the X-Men. Winston also gives her boots and elbow-length gloves to complete the look. After Winston and Kenji leave again, Adam takes off one of Juliet's gloves and kisses her hand. Juliet feels like she can take on anything in her new superhero gear. With that, the book comes to a close. So, final thoughts about this. It was a book that somebody wrote. Somebody wrote this book. At times I feel like the author was more hung up over the weird aesthetic thing that she had going on rather than actual rules of grammar. I'm still hung up over that one conversation with Adam and Juliet early on in the book when, for some unholy reason, the author decided that quotation marks were for squares, because I guess it didn't fit in with whatever aesthetic that she wanted in that moment. The strike-through lines were literally never explained to us. This book was labeled as being a dystopia, which is mainly why I started reading it. I feel like it's only classified as dystopia purely on a surface level. I mentioned this a couple of times, but it was like the author had read 1984 and tried to copy some of the things that went on in that book with literally zero understanding of why those things were terrifying. She also included things like irreversible climate damage, but there was barely even any mention of them, and as I myself mentioned on a few occasions, the book got really close to making some sort of political commentary, but then backed off. It almost made the entire theme of, oh no, the evil reestablishment made the environment icky for everybody, seem almost accidental. All in all, I would not call this a dystopia so much as a superhero backstory prologue, especially in those last two chapters with Juliet putting on a literal spandex bodysuit. There is literally no other way to explain that except that it's a superhero costume. Also, I hated all of these characters, but nobody that I hated more than Juliet. She might as well have been a ragdoll with how little agency that she actually had. At literally any time, she could have just gotten up and walked out from Warner's stronghold. But she didn't, because she didn't want to hurt people. And again, circling back to points I made earlier, there's a difference between not wanting to hurt people and being kept prisoner. Juliet wasn't a character, she was a freaking doormat. Juliet didn't do anything in her own story. Most of the actual plot was pushed along by men. Adam showed up in her cell. Warner took her to the stronghold. Warner put her in the room with a baby. Adam rescued her from Warner. Kenji took them to Castle. Literally the only time when Juliet had any actual agency was when Warner was molesting her and she used her femininity to get his gun and shoot him. Even though it's been a while since I last read a multi-part series for YouTube, I will still stand by my policy to only just read the first book on YouTube and the rest will be on Patreon. There are other things that I want to get to on YouTube, and I'm not going to be stuck on this one series forever. You can read the rest of my review of Shatter Me series on Patreon for just $1 a month, along with a lot of other bonus snark that isn't available anywhere else. And now I know that you're probably chomping at the bit to learn what the next book I'll be reading for YouTube. A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. As usual, I'm eager to get started on something new and to put Shatter Me in the rearview mirror. Thanks for listening to my book snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because sometimes I drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to support me. The first is watching this video as well as all of my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book snarks, always free and updated every morning. And if you've already read all of my main snarks, then you can find even more snarks on my Patreon. You can access it for $1 a month. Plus, you also get early access to my main Tumblr snark. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my snark so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $3 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well. $3 for every 5,000 words. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of erotic short stories and one full-length novel. I also sometimes run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do that just so you know when I might be offering more things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys.